Hi everyone, this is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies, and we're here for another CHS Dialogue, or HeroesX Office Hour, with Greg, Nagy, Janet, Hélène, and Sarah. And we're talking this week about material from hours 16 and 17, Greg, of your book, The Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours. And you've provided a couple of discussion questions for these 2 hours. I think we wanted to start with the 17 question.
Yes.
Which was, do you think that Athena had really solved the ills of vendetta when she made it possible, in terms of the myth narrated in the Eumenides of Aeschylus, for the Athenians to initiate the legal system of trial by jury? So the Eumenides is the third of these 3 tragedies by Aeschylus.
Yes.
Wrapping up.
Yes.
But does it really wrap up the ills of vendetta?
Yes. And I could be tempted to be so simplistic about this and say, the way neo-Hegelians say. I'm saying neo-Hegelians, not Hegelians, because I think Hegel would have been much too sophisticated to say it this way, that in a sense what you have in the 3 tragedies, Agamemnon, Libation Bearers, and Eumenides, is thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis. And then synthesis would be, okay, we're getting rid of vendetta, vendetta where you have a linear chain of evil, a chain of suffering. Every time you repay something that somebody did wrong to you, you're creating a new suffering, and the chain is endless. So that would be vendetta, a wonderful Italian word that comes from a Latin word that you still see in such English borrowings as vindictive. So the ethic of vengeance. So it's so easy to say, well, the synthesis is we now have trial by jury, problem solved, no more vendettas. It's illegal simply to retaliate against something that has been done to you. You take them to court instead. And it's interesting that in Athenian legal systems, the way to say prosecutor is the pursuer, and the way to say defendant is the fleer, the one who runs away. So the one who runs after, and then the one who runs away. So, oh, we've just reshaped vendetta. We've made it now trial by jury, which is an instrument of civilization. The polis, that is to say, the city-state, has now been invented. The dysfunctionalities of old kingdoms are gone. Now you have the functionalism of an ideal of justice. It's not that trial by jury will give you absolute justice each time, but cumulatively it will. So isn't this wonderful? A neo-Hegelian solution to everything. And then, as you 4 know, I've been playing with the end of the Odyssey, where again you have the potential of a vendetta because of the killings that Odysseus and those loyal to him have inflicted on the families of the suitors. And again, the families of the suitors can in the old world institute a vendetta, whatever the rights and wrongs committed, and the retaliations can go on forever. And there too, you have not just Zeus, but Athena herself saying, all right, enough's enough. It stops here. Okay, there you don't have trial by jury as the solution, but that's because it's epic, and epic isn't going to talk about the present in a direct way. So isn't this nice and simple? What's that wonderful popular expression in English? Easy peasy. But just as I said, trial by jury does not necessarily result in justice each time. Justice is still something that you hope for, something that comes with the fullness of time. So can we really say problem solved? And
I think that someone's response was saying exactly that.
Yeah.
You can't be sure that the jury will make the just decision in an absolute sense. So justice can still go wrong, just like more
Yeah.
often does with
Yes.
this, swinging pendulum of evil deeds
And
compensating for each other.
even the verdict for Orestes, it's not that he is pure as the driven snow. It's not that he's innocent the way we say, okay, the jury found him innocent. The jury simply will not punish him. He's been punished enough, or whatever you could say. He's been pursued by the Furies, and it's after all myth. And you could say, as long as the Orestes story is told, he's haunted by the fact that he killed his mother. Okay, he avenged his father, but he killed his mother. And is Athena, the goddess, condoning the killing of a mother? No. It's just that she's trying to find a solution for vendetta. And so that's why the new Greg formula, as you know, and this is something that I've been struggling with only in the last few years, I think works for me at least, which is that in myth, things are dysfunctional, but in ritual, which includes myth, but which wasn't there in the right way, in ritual, which is the present and the future, the pollutions of the past, the dysfunctionalities of the past are purified, are purged. And Aristotle will, of course, have a nice scientific word for it, which is also a myth ritual word. So he kind of has it both ways, catharsis, or as we pronounce it, catharsis. But catharsis is both medical purgation and ritual purification. And in a sense, the institution is something that aims for that. But every time there's a trial by jury, it's just aiming for it. And only cumulatively can you say, well, this is a system of justice. And the fact that one of the participants raised the question of Manus and how we all like to talk about Manus the way Leonard Milner does as cosmic sanction, makes me think that even my first question, which seems kind of naive, is have you changed your mind about Agamemnon? You really didn't like him, did you? In the Iliad, do you like him anymore? Well, no, you don't. So in a way, the answer is, again, too easy. But as one of the participants noted, and that's something I struggled with already back in the 1979 book, Best of the Achaeans, not only does Achilles experience Manus, which is something we try to translate as cosmic sanction, but so too does Agamemnon, right back at you. So just as Achilles has Manus, okay, he triggers it. He's the more important actor in this, but Agamemnon reciprocates with his own Manus, because Manus is reciprocal simply because it's part of the cosmos going wrong. Something is happening, something has to be fixed, and so he's experiencing it too. It's not just I'm angry and Agamemnon says, well, I'm angry too. It's not that simple. It's cosmic. Given that, you could say that the entire situation of Agamemnon is something where he's part of the cosmos going wrong, going bad, because of what he did. And in a sense, in the three tragedies we're now looking at, something has been going bad, not only starting with Agamemnon, but even before Agamemnon, the previous generation. So it's just one dysfunctionality triggering another and another and another. But you could say...
Greg, sorry, could I just ask a little bit about that?
Yes.
Because, as you say, one of the participants has picked up on this Manus, and the Manus that Agamemnon has. But then also, there's the Manus of Clytemnestra and of Orestes and of the Furies. So there's a lot of it. I was just tracking it through in the source book where the word is tracked. And, And is it right that a manis is something that, you know, we expect gods to have, perhaps because it's cosmic, but when humans, mortals have it, that's when it does go disastrously wrong.
It's just one disaster after another, and since the gods are participating in these human disasters back then, in a sense, they're dysfunctional as well. And we saw that in Iliad 19, where when Agamemnon tells his story about, well, it's not my fault, it was Ate that did it. Well, back then, in the world of myth, Ate was living on Olympus. And then they got rid of Ate up there. That's why the gods are now functional, but we've still got Ate and plenty of it. So we've never got rid of Ate. In fact, we really got it sort of in Ate square, Ate cubed, after Zeus threw her out of Olympus. And I like what you say, Sarah. I think that's exactly it. That in the Iliad, you see the Manes only in terms of the two big actors who trigger the whole quarrel. Achilles on one side and Agamemnon on the other, and it adds up to this dysfunctional cosmic sanction. Everything's going wrong. Whereas you're quite right, in the Agamemnon and the Libation Bearers and the Eumenides, you can see Manes experienced not only by Agamemnon, but by Clytemnestra and by the Furies themselves, who you could describe as the embodiment of this kind of old-fashioned pre-present, pre-future anger or dysfunctionality or whatever we call it. I love that.
Yeah, and in the same way, the Furies are only relocated at the bottom of the hill of Ares. Yes. They can come back if the jury is not doing his job properly, or if something, you know.
Oh yes, they're there, and I still love the expression. I can't remember who started it, but the idea that Athena and the Furies have a condominium in Athens. And it's just that Athena is in the living room and the Furies are in the basement. No, let's say the cellar. Because you're French, I think cellar says it better than simply basement. There they are in the cave. And you and I, Hélène, and I think you and I, Janet, and soon, I hope, you and I, dear Sarah, will be looking at that cave, which is still there in Athens, the cave of the Eumenides, or the Furies. And isn't it wonderful that we talk about them euphemistically, right? So instead of saying Furies or Erinnues, we can say Eumenides, which means, oh, nice, nice, nice. Those who are kindly disposed. We all know that they can show their fangs at any time, but it's like being nice to a Doberman Pinscher. You say nice doggy, nice doggy, nice doggy, even though the doggy isn't always nice and can bite you.
You're hoping.
Yes, euphemism is a hope. It's a fond, ritualized hope. May I say, this is a horrible joke. I think Keith has heard it, but I don't think that Sarah and Janet and Hélène have heard this. This is somebody visiting a host, and the host has a Doberman Pinscher, and the Doberman Pinscher is running towards the guest. And the host is getting very worried, and the guest is trying to reassure the host. So the guest says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll soon have him eating out of my leg."
Oops.
So okay. I think we should move on quickly.
Well, we have another question.
Yes, let's have another question and get the Doberman Pinscher off our minds.
after reading the Agamemnon of Aeschylus, have you changed your opinion of him? And I think I have. I like him better, or I hate him less, you know, because you see him as a victim of somebody else. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, you know, what goes around, it comes around.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so I'm going to save my opinion for last. Let's see what Janet thinks. Do you like him more or less, or about the same?
Yeah, he's not a well-loved character, that's for sure. But we don't hear him as a very bad king. He is being not liked by his people. Yeah. Surely not liked by his wife after Iphigenia incident. But before that, we don't hear much about him. This is the person who led the Achaeans to the war. So there is something more about him. Perhaps we can study more. No.
Okay, let's see what Sarah thinks.
Well, I'm actually picking up on a couple of points that our participants are making. And one of them is thinking about Agamemnon as a cult hero, for example. Yes. You know, he seems such a as you say, a messed up character, and yes, you know, all the bad stuff that we think about. But he was actually a cult hero as well, isn't he?
Oh yes, yes. And hello, if you go to the museum at Mycenae, they have objects of cult that were excavated at Argos, and at Argos he is worshipped as a cult hero, and there's an inscription from the archaic period of Greece that shows that Agamemnon had a hero cult. He also had probably hero cults elsewhere in the Greek-speaking world. So, not that that would make us like him more, because a lot of cult heroes are nasty characters, and you don't have to like a hero to worship a hero. But there you are. But your point is well taken. I'm also thinking that even in the Iliad, there are moments where you can be sympathetic with him, like when he's wounded in later part of the Iliad. His pain is sympathetically treated. When he has his own big epic moments and killing various heroes on the Trojan side, he gets credit for that. He even gets a description of his shield. It's not the shield of Achilles, but it's still a fancy and good and cosmic shield, and people had a great deal of respect for that. So, but in the three tragedies, I would say that maybe the part where you can try to relate to him most is he certainly doesn't enjoy killing his daughter, but he still does.
Yes, we don't really hear about it from his point of view, do we? But yeah. It probably was, well, not that we can ascribe exactly human emotions. This isn't a real person, but this isn't just done on a whim.
Yes, no, it's not.
For a particular reason, and we've got Artemis in the picture. And the whole thing is almost, again, as one of our participants has been talking about, ritualistic.
Exactly, and you know, if you think about Athenian myth and what Athenians would think about a father sacrificing his daughter for the common good and being heartbroken about it, that's one of the Athenian charter myths. One of the four Athenian charter myths, where the youngest daughter of King Erechtheus sacrifices herself for the entire community. But for that to happen, the king himself has to be the chief sacrificer who cuts her throat, the way you'd cut the throat of a female sheep. So it's not that it's I mean, we're horrified by it, and this is the horrific side of myth and of etiology, as opposed to the purging side of myth and ritual today and tomorrow. But it's still something that's not, so to speak, reprehensible in terms of the etiological requirements of the myth. You can't just say that he's evil for doing it because the era in which he exists is evil. So, as
and would that perhaps also apply with the killing of Agamemnon himself by Clytemnestra and Aegisthus?
Oh, clever. Well,
again, that's our participants' suggestion.
Yes, but in that case, yeah, it's certainly something that is, by today's ritual standard, and you understand by today I mean 458 BCE. By today's ritual standards, it's incorrect. You're not supposed to kill an ox while the ox is eating grain from the trough. So even if you were doing it to an ox, it would be incorrect. And here's Aegisthus and Clytemnestra, with Clytemnestra's help, we assume, doing it to Agamemnon as if he were an ox, but doing it the wrong way, even if Agamemnon were an ox.
So you were mentioning about eating.
Yes.
In this version, it's in the bathtub and caught up by a net, but in the version that Agamemnon tells in Odyssey, it's at a feast.
True. Yes, but at one point he says, those bastards killed me as if I were a bous epiphotne, an ox that is eating at the trough, because it is a feast and you're not supposed to kill people while they're at dinner. Okay, now that goes back, of course, to the Odyssey and the killing of the suitors. Is ordinarily you wouldn't kill your enemies at a dinner, you'd kill them on the battlefield. So there's, and remember, Odysseus and his cohorts have to spend all this time fumigating the place afterwards. They have to they have to make gestures of purification. So it's a dysfunctional mess back there in the heroic age.
Yeah, and the fact that he got a really bad nostos is part of the sanction too.
Oh, yes, part of the cosmic sanction.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. So in a sense, you can trace the menace that he already feels in the Iliad, and you can fast forward all the way to his death, where and it's so weird. His sea voyage is okay, but then as soon as he lands, that's still part of the nostos. You have to get back to home and step across the threshold, and no, it doesn't happen. There in the Odyssey, it happens at Aegisthus's place, presumably, not back home in Mycenae. So that's a complication too. And I'm so happy that in those comments on the Iliad, I did really try to keep track of these different versions of how Agamemnon meets his end. But however he meets his end, whether we think of the version in the Aeschylus set of 3 tragedies or in what we read in the Odyssey, it's still dysfunctional one way or another.
And Agamemnon was loved by his children.
That's true.
That's that side, Electra and Orestes, they love
yes.
and respect, and Electra, the way she wants to put patience. So
You're
we
right.
do not like him, but his children do.
His children liked him.
And why?
And after all, Freud does have a good imagination in mythology. He really understood Greek mythology in an uncanny way. So the fact that Freud thinks of the Electra complex means that Electra really was daddy's girl. And, here's something. Iphigenia was also Daddy's girl. There's that lovely passage where when Iphigenia is still a little girl and there's Daddy having a party with his fellow warriors, and she comes into the party scene and sings and dances for Daddy. So she's the perfect daughter.
Look what it gets her.
And look where it gets her.
But yeah, Electra doesn't seem to mind. I mean, of course, Agamemnon's dead at that point, but
yes,
I never thought of that. That's a good point, Janet.
And yeah, Electra has such a hard time, not only in the second of the three tragedies by Aeschylus, but also if you think of the tragedies composed by Sophocles and Euripides, and we have them. We have quite a dossier on Electra and her feelings towards her father, and they're very different personalities in these three tragedies: Aeschylus's, Sophocles's, and Euripides's. But one thing is consistent: she loves Daddy.
Well, is that about our time? Now that we have a pause, anyway. Were there any more participant responses that you all want to bring up from hour 16?
Well, one thing is clear is that so we saw that Hélène, I think, likes him about the same as before. Janet and Sarah, I didn't catch whether you like him more or less, or does it matter, or differently.
That's probably a good way of putting it from my perspective.
Yeah.
I just love how awful he is in the Homeric epics.
Yes,
There's such juicy passages, and here he is. Well, you could say a tragic figure in all senses of that word.
Yes. I see it. Yeah. And how about you, Janet?
I think he is a complicated figure.
Yes.
And not very. He has many aspects not likable, but
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful way to end. Don't you all think that it's complicated?
Thanks, you all. See you again next time.
See you next time. Thank you all. Thank you all.